Hi, welcome to Storytime with Dan Booker. Appreciate you being here. Today we're going to continue on. Our story today is Victorian Club. So let's jump right in. Taking a taxi, they arrived at a mansion in the best part of town. Gleaming limousine graced the drive, showing the place expected wealth and refinement. Dressed in their best, the two men went to the door, knocked, and waited some more. Eventually, the door was opened by an impeccably dressed man who asked their business. Referring to their cards, the man checked the signatures from a ledger and, after careful scrutiny, bade them enter. Harry and Oedipus removed their gloves and hat, handed them both over and with their walking sticks. Harry looked at the man and inquired, "Might I know why we were left outside for so long?" The man apologized. "I'm sorry, sirs. I was downstairs and only just heard the door a moment ago. No disrespect intended." Harry smiled. "Quite right. Must be difficult to take care of a place on your own. I hope there are others to assist you." "Yes, sir, but the majority of them won't be in until this evening, when more members are present." "Is the club president in?" "Certainly, sir, since it's also his home. If you would follow me, please, I will announce you." At a large oak door, they were left outside while they were introduced. From where they stood, they could see into a library, smoking room, and ballroom. The library had a rack for newspapers, comfortable chairs, and smelled of ancient volumes. The ballroom was opulent, with a freshly waxed floor, ornate frescoes decorating the walls, alongside elegant tapestries. Stationed conveniently around were comfortable benches lining the outside and tables for refreshment. The smoking room was an idealized version of masculine comfort. Deep leather chairs, a multitude of cigar boxes with a wide range of expensive cigars rested behind large glass doors. There were even hookahs for innovative smokers. Thick, deep, and luxurious carpets were all around. On the wall was an old-style phone with a handheld earpiece. Off to the side was a room labeled for ladies. The door was closed, so they had no idea what it contained, but no doubt it was bright, cheerful, and full of vases with fragrant flowers, and tables filled with choice morsels. The furniture would be simple yet elegant, and designed to please both eyes and provide comfort. The office door opened, and they were led inside. A thin, handsome man sat behind the desk wearing a monocle and smoking a cigarette through a holder. Dressed in morning dress, complete with an ascot, he was the very picture of a Victorian gentleman. Oedipus was almost about to laugh at the theatrical look of the man, but controlled himself. Sitting to the side of the desk sat a woman of exceptional beauty and noble bearing. Her long chestnut hair was gathered into a bun. Her dress of a deep burgundy color, offset with black lace and black pearl necklace, looked almost too formal for so early in the day. Harry and Oedipus acknowledged them both with a bow and sat in two leather chairs. The man looked at them with an intensity that they endured with calm patience. "Gentlemen, I apologize that you were left waiting in the stoop. It was a small test to see how you'd react. Your patience and generosity towards my servant did not go unnoticed or unappreciated. Most men that have had to wait on that stoop behave boorishly towards Franklin." He smiled. "Well, they have even gone so far as to raise their sticks to him. They soon found out he is not as defensive as he seems." The man chuckled richly. "Imagine their surprise when about to beat him, they found themselves beaten instead. Servants may be used, but never abused." He expounded portentously. The lady beside him nodded sagely. The man looked at Perry closely. "I remember you. We met at a theater during their production of the Tales of Hoffman. Your wife is very beautiful." Perry did not correct the man of the fact that Persephone was not his wife, but simply acknowledged that she was indeed beautiful. Gallantly, he looked at the man's wife. "May I compliment you on your own wife, who is not only beautiful, but regal in bearing?" The man laughed richly. "You hear him, my dear. He is a man of taste and discrimination." She blushed slightly and lowered her eyes. The man turned to Oedipus. I believe I saw you and your wife there as well. She also is a woman of note. I saw the devoted way she clung to your arm and the warmth in her eyes as she looked on you. You are very fortunate to have so lovely and affectionate a partner. Oedipus remained silent, but thanked the man with his eyes. Man turned to Perry. Your friend here says very little. Perry grinned. True, but he thinks a great deal and is therefore of inestimable value. The man rose and extended his hand. Gentlemen, my name is Victor Worthington Manfred, founder and president of the Victorian Club. This is my wife Marjorie. Please allow me to show you around. Every room was richly decorated in dark colors. Oil lamps graced the walls, adding a soft light and warmth. Fires cracked within the fireplaces, whether the room was occupied or not, sending their resinous scent throughout the club. In the smoking room, they were offered a Beaujolais with a cigar. Perry accepted both, as did Oedipus, but neither showed any intention of smoking. Victor added another mental note next to the two men's names. He turned to Oedipus and offered to light a cigar. Well, thank you, but I'll wait till the port at home. This Beaujolais, though excellent, is too light to withstand the rigors of a cigar. Victor sat and motioned for the men to take a seat. Gentlemen, during your time here, you have been continually tested on breeding, manners, and knowledge of proper etiquette. You're men of quality, and I cordially invite you to join our club. The subscription is modest at $3,000 a month and with an initial outlay of $10,000. Both men casually wrote a check for the required amounts, which Victor pocketed just as casually. You'll have a receipt in the next formal meeting. Tomorrow is our monthly ball, and you and your ladies are cordially invited. Otis started his reply with, well, thank you, but we'll have to check. He quickly changed tact. No Victorian gentleman would ask his wife if it was convenient for her to attend. He would tell her, and they were going to a ball, and she would go to a ball. Our social calendar. But I believe we are free, are we not, Perry? Perry drank the last of his wine and nodded. Indeed we are, old friend. Indeed we are. He turned to Mr. Manfred and extended his hand. Sir, it is with reluctance that we must leave, but we have other calls to make. We look forward to a ball tomorrow, and would you please have your man call us a taxi? Victor nodded, rang the bell on the table next to his chair, and gave orders to summon a taxi for the gentleman. In the taxi, Oedipus blew out his breath that he had been holding. Sorry, Perry, I almost blew the whole game at the last moment. Perry patted his knee. True, you were going to say we'd have to check with the ladies, but caught yourself so fast that the change in thought was barely discernible. I believe that the man we visited earlier was a member. If that is so, then the other members may, or should I say, probably are, in danger. The question is why? Granted, they are probably all men of wealth, but why these men in particular? The bank manager also had Victorian Club cards on his desk. I saw them when I knelt to see the direction of the fire. We need to discover what other connections these men had. The following evening, all four duly arrived at the Victorian Club. Harry had purchased a limousine first thing in the morning and felt that he and Oedipus could modify it and enhance it at a later date. By rights, it should have been driven by a chauffeur. But as Perry pointed out, if a gentleman of means desired to drive his own vehicle, who was to forbid him to? Arriving at the appointed time, they parked and joined the small group waiting to enter. One of us noted that all were of a type. The men were good-looking, obviously wealthy, refined, and self-important. He instinctively disliked them. Perry felt the same. A person should have some aim in life further than the accumulation of wealth. These were men who dealt in money from the comfort of their homes. They relied on others to actually accomplish anything needed. The women, for the most part, were beautiful and pleasant. He noticed a couple of ladies whose faces were not quite as cheerful. In fact, they looked as though they would very much have desired to be elsewhere. He whispered to Persephone to talk to these women to find out what she could. The double doors were opened, and the crowd entered directly into the lounge to be greeted by Mr. Manfred and his good lady. A small book and pencil was given to each lady, and the men circulated, asking to be penciled in for a particular dance. Perry and Oedipus circulated as well, without having knowledge of any of the women save two. Perry indicated to Otis, one of the two women who were looking miserable, and had him seek a dance, preferably something where talk was possible. Persephone stationed herself next to the one Perry had indicated as possibly needing assistance. For an hour, it was mingle and talk as men and women got to know each other and ladies filled their books. Several of the men were, in a sense, barred from the favor, as some men were given multiple dances. Perry was given two with Persephone, one at the front and one at the back, so that they could bring each other up to date on information. Otis wanted to dance every dance with Sharon, but was disappointed that she had only one space he could manage. As newcomers, Persephone and Sharon were intriguing additions, as far as the men were concerned, as were their partners to the women. At the end of an hour, the ball began in earnest. Perry and Persephone were given the honor of leading the promenade, with Sharon and Otis following. From then on, the dances were varied from quadrilles, waltzes, even to a polka. During the waltz, Perry was paired with some young woman who had seemed disturbed. I'm new to this club. I wish someone would tell me more about it. I know precious little. She looked into his eyes and saw warmth, intelligence, and sympathy. It's a lovely place in the beginning. It actually was rather fun, sort of like being a young girl again and playing dress up. After a while, my husband became more and more of a Victorian. He treats me all right, I guess, but lately I'm almost becoming afraid of him. He's more interested in increasing his wealth and spending more time with here instead of at home. I'm allowed only out when he can accompany me. Sometimes I can visit friends from the club, but I'm usually alone. I want him to renounce his membership, but he won't. Harry sympathized and suggested that she speak with Persephone about getting together sometime. The dance changed, and he received his next partner for the polka. It was more energetic and left little ability to carry on a general conversation. People took a break whenever an opportunity arose, and people scattered to help themselves to refreshments in the various rooms. Most of the women went to the ladies' room for ices and cakes. As they passed on the dance floor, Persephone indicated by a movement of her fan that she had information they would discuss when they next danced. Perry adjusted his gloves, indicating he also had news. He held hope that the young lady he had talked to would seek Persephone out. When he eventually was able to dance with Persephone, the dance was a quadrille, which offered little opportunity for intimate talk. The ball broke after 2 hours for a hot supper. After supper, it was back to the dance floor, ices, drinks, and more dancing. To make matters worse, the dancers expended more and more energy until the evening became more morning and everyone was exhausted. The clock chimed 4:45 and people sleepily said farewell. On the drive back, Persephone leant against Perry, and Sharon and Otis slept in each other's arms. Soleman turned slowly to address Persephone. Thank you both for coming tonight. I hope you aren't too exhausted. Persephone shook her head, but her face betrayed anxiety. Perry, I spoke to the woman whom you suggested coming to me. I believe she's in danger from her husband. In fact, both women talk of the same symptoms. It seems that somehow these men become more Victorian the longer they remain in the club. They expect total control over their wives, even to the point of corporal punishment. Perry nodded and sighed. Last few cases have all been homes of members of, or possibly past members of this club. Somewhere, someone, somehow is avenging these women. I've been debating what to do. Both of us are just confused as I am. The point is, do we turn a blind eye to the crimes being committed after the fact, or join the fight against this club and its members and become, well, criminals in our turn? Persephone hadn't considered it from a two-point perspective, but she saw that Perry would happily change sides to avenge these women, and by extension, so would Oedipus. They couldn't just turn a blind eye either way. She knew Perry well enough that he would be on the women's side. It was in his nature to stick up for someone being persecuted, and it was so deeply embedded in him as to be an integral part of his soul. It was what had caused him to put on the mantle of Soleman. And since these men were the persecutors themselves, retribution was not unthinkable. Let's see what we can do to shut this club down. Perry grinned. He had hoped she would pick that option. She was thinking long term. As long as men went there, the harm would continue. If we're going to do this, then you and Sharon might want to move in. We have to play the parts of married couples. Would you mind? And do you think Sharon would agree? Perry, I would love it, and so would Sharon. We've often talked about the possibility of combining forces. He laughed at the way she had phrased her reply. Combining forces was a good way to look at it. Pulling into the drive, he woke his partner, who woke Sharon. In the study, he and Persephone explained the situation, possible modus operandi. Looking around, Perry realized that the night had been long and all were sleepy. Now, let's meet up this afternoon at, say, 2 o'clock. Oedipus grabbed Sharon's hand and dashed to their room. Persephone saw that if she didn't intercede, that Perry would stay up thinking. She led him to their bedroom. A knock at the front door that afternoon disclosed with chef, butler, and maid to keep in accordance with their new personas. True, they were day help, but would assist in the illusion of a prominent household. Persephone, as the lead lady of the home, took the help to the various areas of duty and set them to work. Lunch will be ready in an hour, Perry. Well, you took command of the household pretty quick. She blushed, thinking she had overstepped the boundaries. Perry read her mind and disabused her. Thank you, my dear. You were absolutely correct, since the home is your sphere. Well, yours and Sharon's. Oedipus, you'll have to pass as my brother. We look enough alike that the idea is possible. Made even more possible as we have adopted each other's manner of speech, not to mention some of each other's habits and talents. Oedipus relaxed in his chair. Such is the perils and benefits of living in such close proximity to one's companion. Sharon rolled her eyes, playfully pinching Oedipus. She exclaimed in a mock Cockney accent, My, you've gotten ever so posh living with Perry. Over lunch, they discussed the next stage of their investigation. I think Oedipus and I will head into the lower part of town and look into the robbers there. We'll have to let ourselves go a little bit to look out of work. We already found suitable attire. Persephone wanted to look into the women's shelters. Sharon raised her hand. I already volunteer at the Nightingale mission. There are many women living there who have suffered abuse from their husbands. You might want to talk to a few of them. They're a little shy and ashamed. They somehow feel that what happened to them was their fault. It's almost like they were brainwashed. It makes me furious to see how some of these men treated them. To make matters worse, when they were no longer pretty anymore, they were quickly divorced and sent away. Hell, sometimes the divorce happened when they were still in the hospital. The men sold the homes and disappeared into a new identity. She pounded a fist on the table. Frankly, I'm glad some of these men had happened to what they did. It's not revenge, it's justice. Perry nodded. What she had said was what he was beginning to feel. He felt in sympathy with the vigilantes and not the victims. Looking over, he saw Oedipus take Sharon's hand. He too appeared to agree with her. Persephone decided to play devil's advocate. Well, unfortunately, what these people are doing is still a crime. Are you seriously suggesting that we join forces with them? Sharon looked angrily at Persephone. Her voice was warm and gentle. Her voice, warm and gentle, turned cold and harsh. It's easy to say that because you haven't seen these women. You haven't heard their stories. Can you even imagine the heart-wrenching feelings of a woman whose husband she was deeply in love with, turning on her in anger and scarred her for life? Who cast her out with a pittance to fend for herself in their inhospitable world, one who looks like they do? Come with me, hear their stories, see the proof, and then tell me if the ends don't justify the means. Persephone had never heard Sharon so angry. She felt this way. It only meant that they absolutely needed to go and hear these women out. It would take at least a week for Perry and Oedipus to let their hair and beards grow enough to pass muster on Skid Row. During that week, she would help Sharon at the shelter, meet and talk to the residents, and then determine whether they would be justified in joining the enemy for a higher good. For the rest of the week, Sharon and Persephone went to Skid Row and helped in the mission, while the men stayed home and worked out their financial portfolios. Harry had set aside 200,000 to invest based on the things that he had heard at the club. He wanted to see if this really was a major draw for the man at the Victorian, or was it to actually live as a Victorian male, to be master of one's domain with even the wife subservient, or, as Oedipus felt, it was a combination of both of them. Oedipus and Perry were conscious of the dangers of immersing themselves too far in the characters of club members. The feeling of privilege that one might get living in this method could easily become overpowering. At the end of the week, Perry deduced that the club members were using each other for insider trading. This was the way most had made substantial monetary gains. Figuring this out, Perry had more than doubled his initial investment. He had used his knowledge of stocks and bonds to give information as well as receive it. It assisted in keeping up his pretense as an astute man of business. Oedipus gave information on new technologies that were worth investing in. His information allowed some of the members to get in on the ground floor in surefire growth industries. Standing the club was established as members of Worth. 3 days before going to Skid Row, they stopped attending meetings, claiming travel plans for inspecting new technologies. By Friday, they looked a little seedy, especially once clad in dilapidated clothes and worn shoes. Perry retained his own shoes, but dirtied them up a little. From the day he had found them on the tree shelf of his former employer, he had never gone out without them. They were the source of his strength, acumen, and courage. He had already possessed all these in a high degree, but the shoes brought them out to their peak and had been instrumental in the creation of his alter ego of Soleman. There were only two barbers in the location that they were interested in. One was just on the border, and the other deep in the center of Skid Row. Oedipus entered the first for shave and haircut. The barber was neatly groomed, such as done by a master's hand. Oedipus made casual conversation on the lack of jobs and that he was willing to turn his hand to anything, even crime, to make some money. The man was uninterested and just grunted. Shave was not clean, and the cut far from what he would have expected when looking at the clean and expensive shop. Disappointed, Oedipus paid for the work, but only gave a meager tip. Walking out, he commented that there was no way this was Tony Tucombe. Outside of Thomas's place, they did a thorough examination. The place showed that the barber charged the minimum, that the tufts of hair on the floor that he was sweeping up showed he did a brisk business. Harry grunted approval and asked if Oedipus wanted the honor of 2 cuts and shaves in one day. He declined the offer and opened the door for Perry. Perry and Oedipus waited until Thomas straightened up. When he'd done, he turned to the 2 waiting men and offered the chair. Who's first, gentlemen? Perry rose and seated himself. He was enveloped in a hot towel preparatory to being shaved. Thomas spoke to Oedipus. You gentlemen related? I noticed a similarity. Oedipus acknowledged Perry as his older brother. We're so alike that we're both out of work. I tell you, it's getting desperate. Thomas looked at Perry's hands resting on his lap. What did you gentlemen do before the hard times hit? Oedipus had been watching Thomas' actions carefully, and seeing his glance at Perry's hand, had an answer ready. My brother used to dabble in stocks, and I was an accountant. Now, with stocks tanking so badly, even large businesses are cutting back. I lost my position a week ago, and we're starting to run low on funds. I swear we'd do anything to make a buck. Thomas was studying the men with care. They did have the looks of men who at one time were affluent. The fact that they were on this side of town showed that they were at the last extremities. I'll tell you something, boys. I might just have a friend who can help you with a job. His name's Tony. He goes by Tony Tucombs. He finished both their cuts and shaves while deep in thought. When done, he grinned as they admired his work and complimented him. Harry ran a hand over his smooth chin. You know, we almost went to the other barber just down the street. He looked well turned out, but when we looked down the street and saw your shop, we figured there was only one other place for him to go. So we chose you because you had to be the better barber. Thomas complimented him on figuring out the puzzle. You know, there's not many that would have it figured out like you did. You're definitely smarter than most of the folks down here. I think my friend can use a couple of intelligent guys. He waved aside the money they offered as payment. Tell you, he's kind of particular. Get yourself smartened up a bit with that. Fresh set of clothes at the real estate store will do you a world of good. Come back tonight. No, wait. Tonight he's going to be over at the mission. Check in there about 6:30 tonight. Tell him that I sent you and he should take you on. Thomas watched them walk down to the resale store. Grinning, he contemplated the further crimes he could accomplish with men like them on his team. The future is going to be looking up. All right, that's it for today. The next chapter is Skid Row. Let's see, that's about the same. And then on the other side. So that's it for today. I appreciate you being here. I'll mark where I am so don't have to go searching. Thank you for stopping by. I appreciate you being here. It's awful lonely and I have to do these on my own. So we'll be back on today is, what day is today? Today's Friday. Friday, yeah. So the next reading will be at Tuesday, 7 o'clock in the morning. Again, I do apologize for the mix-up, and we'll go back on schedule. So that's it for today. Be good to yourself, and I look forward to seeing you again on Tuesday. Bye. I gotta get my clicker here.